crypto in general as a UX problem. Like if you think about your grandma, for example, like soon agents will write their own smart contract. So how do you make sure like that they are secure? Ethereum can basically give trust to AI, and AI can make Ethereum more useful. With this ERC 8004, we call it Trustless Agent. Let's just build the best decentralized system that we can. Let's see what happens, basically.
Hello, and welcome to the Cybereconomy Podcast, where we discuss how various technologies such as blockchain and artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, biotechnology influence the world, society, and the economy. And we dive deep into different aspects of the future of the economy, including mechanism design and cybernetics and application of programmable markets and programmable technologies. Today, I am joined by Davide. Davide is head of AI at Ethereum Foundation. This is the new direction that Ethereum Foundation is focusing on. And today we will be talking about the intersection of blockchain and AI, and also the future of agentic AI. Hello, Davide. How are you?
Hi, Stepan. Yeah, great to be here.
Thanks for joining us. At Cyberfund, we typically describe cybernetic economy as intersection of cybernetics, mechanism design, AI, cryptography, and economics. I know that you have quite deep academic background in some of these areas. So maybe to begin with, maybe you can give like a quick story of your journey from like academic and business standpoint, and how you connected with these areas.
Yep, very close to my background and my heart, actually. So I did a PhD at the intersection of like computer science and economics. Actually, I was working on like algorithmic game theory, algorithm mechanism design. This is started about 15 years ago, which is when I first came to the US. So after my PhD, I started working on research science team at Lyft, which is like ride sharing, one of the main ride sharing companies in the US. What we are doing there is mainly like working on like machine learning engineering. This was like kind of the first wave of models like convolutional neural networks to kind of automate how the marketplace work. And blend it with mechanism design. I was always interested in like crypto, like early in Ethereum, but it's not until like 2020, 2021 that I got more involved as a builder, as a researcher in the space. And I guess that's where like kind of my cryptography journey began, actually. Yeah. So I did some cryptography in grad school as well, but you kind of don't use that much when you're working in traditional tech, right? Because you have these standard algorithms that are kind of like there since decades and like kind of well understood, is mainly like engineering work. But it's actually a super exciting world, right? Like with all the like ZKP developments lately and new confidential compute methods. So then maybe more recently, I've been at the EF. I joined the EF like around 3 years ago, actually. And I was originally on this team, which is called RIG, Robust Incentives Group. We were working on economic mechanism design for the core protocol, but I also started a small group doing research on how we can use blockchains to coordinate AI. And we co-authored the paper. We presented at New RIPS in 2023. And that's what was kind of like the first kind of step into this like AI on blockchain journey. It was very early. It was like around mid 2023. So before this last wave of like AI projects on blockchains, like people really starting to understand that like, hey, there is a space for crypto to coordinate like AI, and then in the future robotics, real world crypto. It was the initial step, but then I've had like some other experiences in AI, and then recently in the past few months, it came together, and we formed this new team, which is called DAI team. Actually, credit for your DAGI conference that you guys organize. I think it was also partially the inspiration for the name itself. I mean, yeah, we're excited. Like, I would say that most overlap with what you're talking about is on our first area of focus, which is AI economy on Ethereum. And then we have another area of focus, which is more around like using Ethereum to coordinate the decentralized AI stack. This is kind of like the production of AI as opposed to the delivery of services. We believe this is a bit longer term, like it needs some infrastructure build out phase, but it's potentially very important as well.
Yeah. And by the way, the conference that Davide mentioned, for those who are listening, on October 24th this year, we are doing DAJ Summit. So anyone is welcome. I'll make sure to put some promo codes in the description for podcast to video. And Davide and me, we will be speaking at that conference. And the main topic will be actually open source and distributed AI. So right now, your title, at least what I've seen on LinkedIn, is head of AI at Ethereum Foundation, which sounds pretty cool. You mentioned that there is like two broader areas for the AI team: the open source AI stack and like use of AI within the Ethereum protocol. Can you just give maybe a little bit more details into how the team works? How big is it? Is it purely research oriented, or you also build some products? And what are maybe more immediate initiatives like for this year, for next year? What are the goals? What are the what's the aspiration for this team?
So maybe quick intro about the Ethereum Foundation and how it works. So the best way to see it is like a team of teams, right? So this umbrella of like many teams working on different parts of the Ethereum protocol. And there is an overarching goal for the foundation, which is like the long-term sustainability of the protocol, right? And what it means is that like the overarching goal is like on one end, like closer to like the low level of the protocol is about security, is about like keeping the validator set decentralized, is about censorship resistance, like those core properties of Ethereum that we want to maintain. And then like at a little bit higher level, Ethereum is sustainable and is only valuable if people use it, right? So those teams that are more closer to the ecosystem focus on helping new use cases and new builders come to like build on Ethereum. So today, within the Ethereum Foundation, there is actually two main clusters. You probably have seen them if you are in Ethereum, and like the org chart was recently published, right? There is a big cluster of team, which is called the protocol cluster, and the other one, it's called the ecosystem cluster, right? Around these two like goals. The DAI team is a new team, and right now, essentially, this team is not formally in any of this cluster. It's kind of in its incubation phase, but we work with both. So like we do both like protocol research, and we also engage directly with like other ecosystem teams and kind of like provide support to the builders in the ecosystem. Yeah, the DIA team is right now it's in its incubation phase. There is like a few people working on it. Some of them like contributing from other internal teams, and we are hiring for like 2 new roles in the next few months. Initially, is going to be like kind of a smaller, lean team. And the focus is not so much as like building product directly. Like basically, if I have to summarize the two main outputs of this team is like, number one is like research and applied research. So like one example here is like this ERC 8004 that we recently published. And then the other one is actually to enable like teams to like build new applications on Ethereum. And here we've done and we are doing a lot of engagement still in the context of 8004 for now. But we have like other projects more kind of less focused on agentic economy and more on like how do we make Ethereum more useful with AI, which we'll be announcing in the next few months.
Yeah, I've seen your, I think it was a tweet. You wrote something like AI or Ethereum can make AI more trustworthy and Ethereum can make AI more useful.
Ethereum can basically give trust to AI, and AI can make Ethereum more useful. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other,
yeah. So
yeah,
what would be an example? What would be the examples of? I guess we can talk about the trust a bit later when we talk about ARC 8004. But I'm curious, like, what is the example of usefulness? Like, obviously, AI can be applied to any vertical, any industry, and any software product, and it's being applied, and then it's being getting a lot of traction. But in blockchain case, like I've seen a lot of examples where it's just, meme coins that has AI name in it, and they just pump on Twitter. But I don't think this is the long term kind of useful part. I think there's more. Like what are the use cases that you are most excited about?
yeah, I agree. Like essentially, I feel like it's still early days in terms of like a usage, right? Like you mentioned the meme coins. To me, the meme coins is like kind of this very early stage thing, like similar to like the ICOs in 2017, right? And then like from the dust, when the dust settles, then like the real use case and protocols emerge. I think we'll see the same here. Um, in terms of like um, how AI can make Ethereum more useful. So, number one, it is clear that like crypto in general has a UX problem, right? This is no secret to anyone, right? It's been kind of hard to like mm, get like consumers to use directly like the blockchain, like meaning like the wallet interfaces are kind of like they're getting better and better, but they've not been adopted by the large masses. Like if you think about your grandma, for example, like right. So essentially, like if we build AI in the right way, that the trust assumptions are right, then like we can abstract a lot of like those low level like need to like um do many signatures to do large operations, like essentially like we can clean up a lot of the UX and abstract it away. um, and why crypto becomes more useful, because essentially now if you start thinking of blockchains where like there is not just user experience, there is also machine experience. So then basically it becomes like a platform where like the APIs are there. It's kind of built for machines already, right? It's like internet native money, right? Like the trust models, like um, it's there is no like a human to human based trust in this system, right? Like it's made for like machines to arrive and use it, basically. So if we take that to the extreme, then what it means is that um, essentially like a lot of like um, transaction types can be, for example, bundled, or like different types of like new services can be aggregated. That's why I think that it's still in the early days. We are not seeing too much of this, but like the potential to like mm, build new experiences where like maybe the direct interface is like through AI, but there is the crypto backend to basically value transfer and trust. Those are like very exciting, and we are already starting to see some of these with people like deploying, for example, like uh, these investment bots. Is like not trading bots, but like bots where you can delegate uh, funds in a constrained way, and then they go out and they act on your behalf. And some of these, like they're building also verification mechanism inside. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. And what we're trying to do with 8004 is to uncover like new use cases that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. I think when I talk about crypto and AI, Typically, I like to describe it as the future of finance and the future of banking is both crypto native and AI native, meaning that crypto is providing like a lower transaction cost for your typical financial operations like loans or money transfer or getting yield. And AI gives you a nice UX. And also on top of UX, it's also like you can chat with it. Like finance is pretty stressful thing for most people, especially for people who are not like very familiar with crypto. Like you read all these like people getting their Bitcoin stolen or Ethereum or getting like they lose their private keys or they like pay taxes on their losses on some meme coins. So AI can help you. Like this is how you need to structure your taxes. This is how you like you should use this protocol if you don't want to take too much risk. And I hope that it will actually make it easier and more enjoyable for a lot of people.
Yeah. And maybe let me add right to this example. I think basically strategically what it means for us is like in the short term, I think we have an opportunity. Like I usually phrase it like this: let's make Ethereum the best platform like for machines to like deploy secure code, right? So like basically the idea there is like focusing on security and usability, right? In the sense like how do you make sure that like um, mm, soon agents will write their own smart contracts, right? So how do you make sure like that they are secure, like that they can develop in solidity and it's actually like a model that not only outputs code that works, but that it has no bugs inside. And the other one is usability, right? Like essentially like there is a bunch of inputs that you need when you want to like maybe deploy a new smart contract, being it an escrow contract to like facilitate sometimes specific payment, etc. Or in general, when you want to interact with this like blockchain, like reading data from the chain. So there, I think there is also some opportunity to like build some public goods around like this Ethereum focused AI. Like yeah, one could be on the modeling side, but also on the kind of tooling side with like MCPs, which maybe like they have some trust attached to them. So like you know which APIs you are calling, you know which APIs you are reading your blockchain data from. Yeah, so this is also an exciting space which we haven't done much yet, but as the team expands, is something that we want to like do more of. And the focus there will be still in like working very closely with a lot of projects in the Ethereum ecosystem actually that are already looking at doing this. Just add that coordination layer that can help like people like kind of build together and build some of these technologies as like a public good that everyone in Ethereum can use.
Yeah, yeah. I see a lot of projects recently, especially that are in AI space, and they start with kind of basically MCP native products. So like products that are kind of like smart contracts that are designed to be used by software and by other agents. And I want to also talk about this article that you wrote, I think a few years ago, maybe 1 year ago, called Internet of Agents. Um, so, in my understanding, it's like it's broader than just finance, and it encompasses more use cases. How would you discuss like why do you think we're moving towards Internet of Agents and how it would look like?
Mm. Yeah, I think this is a very interesting topic, and I know you also have thoughts in this area. Maybe if I were to summarize it, is like if I look at the future of like society with AI, if there is just like a bunch of super powerful centralized AI, number one, it looks a bit dystopian, and number two, I think likely uh, if we build the decentralized alternative, it will eventually gonna be much better. Um, because like uh, economy benefits from specialization. value transfers. Yeah, we can already see it like in some of these AI builders are starting to use like multi-agent frameworks, but just inside the organization itself, right? In the sense like it's still centralized AI, but they use like multi-agent frameworks essentially to coordinate them. One example is Grok Heavy, right? Like famously, you send a query, but if you choose Grok Heavy, what they do is they send it to a bunch of like different models that process in parallel, and then they have to come to consensus basically on what is the best answer. And they've seen some work where actually they're developing actual protocols. It's not like blockchain permissionless protocols, but it's like basically protocols on how different AIs like vote on each other answers and kind of like aggregate them and come up with the best answer. So you can already see that like if there is so much value and like some of the next milestones in AI come from like diversity of thought from these models, like probably there is much more diversity of thoughts if you can aggregate models that are like trained on different data from like different entities with different methodologies. Yeah, and actually there is also a very cool framework called MassGen. Is like an open source framework for building agent. Like the AI listeners may be familiar with AutoGen. Like it was kind of became very popular 2 years ago. So the same author like now is building MassGen, which is an open source framework to do like multi-agent generative AI, like similar to what I described. Yeah, so I think this makes me kind of optimistic in the fact that hey, like in the future, probably like there's going to be a lot of specialization, and then if this happens, then like crypto is like basically the best technology to coordinate this multitude of diverse AI. Basically, we don't need to
Mhm.
invent like a new use case for crypto. We just need to use it for what its superpower is, right? Like that's the
Coordination and kind of
plus
programmable
the and
coordination.
yeah, all the primitives of like coordination. Basically, like I usually summarize it in like payments, which is value transfer, identity, and trust verification, validation. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm curious. So I was thinking about this a lot as well. And for me, it's actually still not obvious what would be the equilibrium and the like the stable, like what is the local minimum of this system. Because one version, for example, in the past like 20, 30 years, we had an example of internet, which is decentralized system, and it stayed and grew as even more decentralized. Like there's more websites and more companies and people building websites because each one of them is specialized. Actually, in mid 90s, Microsoft tried to do like their own centralized version of the internet. Like they did their own Wikipedia and Hotmail and all this stuff, and it failed. Why? Because one company cannot compete with the whole world and like thousands of webmasters back then. But also in the same time, in like 10 years after that, no, uh, 20, there was an app store by Apple, which is a very controlled, very kind of top-down system, which has a lot of developers contributing to it, and it's a huge ecosystem, but it is fully controlled by Apple, and Apple designs like what is allowed, what is not allowed. They review every application submitted, whereas anybody can create any website, and I don't know if you use like Tor or VPN, they're basically completely permissionless. So both of these systems work, and both of them thrive like in their own way. In terms of AI, it's still not clear. Like it might be one, it might be other, it might be both. But I'm curious, what is your thoughts, and what like do you think is more likely?
Yeah. So I think there is a risk that basically like even if in this multi-agent future, like they end up using like some more centralized platform for coordination, right? Being it developed by one organization or like some of these more centralized blockchains. That's not a future I want to live in, because then we basically replay like the same thing that happened with like Apple and like Facebook, where like in the best case you have high value capture from the platform, like 30% tax or like the fees for the App Store, and in the worst case you have deplatforming, right? Like, so when Facebook like shut down basically all these application markets, and like a lot of application died. So
And there potentially can be like even bigger risk, because applications, okay, if like computer games, Epic like has to pay 30% fee, but AI actually influences like it's our advisor, it's our friend, it's our business partner. So it has a lot of influence on the economy, on what we think, on what we do, on what we read. So centralized control over this whole system can like
yeah,
be a very big political control as well.
yeah. Basically, is like mm, the exaggeration of like the problems we are already seeing with social media, but like even deeper, because now like some internal thoughts is gonna be transferred to like a dialogue with an AI, and then like that becomes very problematic. Yeah. Um, I agree. So there is this kind of three big problems. Like maybe like I think one important thing is why like these platforms were able to like close down their economy, basically, is because like they fully owned the underlying platform which provided the value. In case of Apple, it was the phone, the hardware, right? So in this case, if the value is provided by this like financial coordination, the core value add of the platform is actually like more maybe like around like financial primitives, and like maybe we can talk about trust primitives later, but basically like one optimistic angle I have on this is that um we do need to build like good applications that users start to use. Like that's like for sure, right? Like we need to start competing. Like crypto basically needs to grow up and like generate like some use cases which reach mass adoption. Basically, like so far our bar was like, I would say, low, because we were competing with like traditional finance, where like the UX is pretty bad already. But now we are competing with like tech companies, right? Tech organizations. So we need to build a good product. But like maybe one optimistic note there is that as long as like there is some network effects on the fact that, okay, a lot of stable coins are being already traded on Ethereum, like the financial applications, which maybe is the first use cases of these agents. Like there is a lot of like permissionless protocol in DeFi or on Ethereum. Maybe like the network effect of that liquidity will be hard to bootstrap by a centralized entity, basically, that doesn't have that and needs to like build it from scratch. That could be like one optimistic angle, but I'm not sure. Like the other thing is like, let's just build the best decentralized system that we can for this AI, and then let's see what happens, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was a lot of and still is a lot of over indexing on infrastructure in crypto, because that's where like infrastructure has a good use for tokens, for tokenomics, and that's where basically uh, the economic incentives are. Whereas in AI, it's all about distribution. So even companies that do a lot of infrastructure, like OpenAI and Google, they still try to win at the product and distribution level, because they see that that's where the actual modes are. Before that, actually, let's still talk a little bit about infrastructure and crypto infrastructure. So you mentioned there's three areas why crypto is useful for AI. It's payments, it is identity, and it is trust. And this is basically what RC 8004 is about. Let's maybe just to start, can you give a like a high level or summary of what is 8004? I see there's a lot of attention to it. I've seen more companies and startups already
Endorsing it, or yeah.
building some, showing some demos, talking about it. So I think it's a great achievement that you and your team has done. But also, I think it's a huge topic, and there's a lot to unpack and explore.
Yeah, so the quick intro is one of the main goals we have is to make Ethereum kind of easier to use for agent builders. And then with this ERC 8004, we call it Trustless Agents. This is not focused too much on the payment side. I can say more about it, but is mainly focused on the kind of discovery and trust problem. The idea is to create logically centralized place, like in this case a registry, basically architecturally decentralized. You run on Ethereum, but it's there is one smart contract where agent builders can register the agent, and what they get is basically discovery. Now agents built from different parties in the ecosystem, right? Virtuals, Olas, Gizao is building the DeFi agents on Ethereum. They are all there in that registries, and they can discover each other. Basically, enables composability as well. The idea of the initial design is, let's look at what's happening on the AI side, and there is essentially two main protocols that are gaining tractions in different ways. So one is the MCP protocol, which you also mentioned before, and basically it spread like wildfire since about a year ago when it was originally released. This is mainly used for tooling. So essentially, if you think about an AI agent as a digital robot, it has all the arms, the actuators, the gadgets. Those are usually MCPs, or they're becoming MCPs. And then the robot needs to communicate with other specialized robots to do other stuff. And so that's A2A, this agent-to-agent protocol that originally was developed by Google. And then now it's part of Linux Fund. It was donated to the Linux Foundation. So it's becoming credibly open source. The LF is establishing the usual governance protocol with the steering committee, etc. So when we heard that news, we were like, okay, this is protocol which is designed, in our opinion, in a very minimal way, and kind of really strong design, is getting adopted in Web 2, although not as much as NCP, but it's kind of a different problems, because these agent-to-agent interactions are not happening as much yet. So it's mainly being endorsed by larger organizations that they can deploy it internally, versus many small startups saying, okay, I'm gonna do MCP for X, and then raise and kind of start building that. But it does have adoption. And then the third thing, when we saw that, okay, it's becoming really open source in the LF, we're like, okay, we can kind of extend this standard to enable trust, right? And yeah, that's was how we started. Someone has already proposed an MCP extension of 8004. So yeah, as you mentioned, there is a lot of activity, both on infra builders that want to help us refine the proposal, the standard, and also on applications that are saying, hey, this looks like a great idea. We want to launch agents on top, or we want to build off-chain indexers or marketplaces which are based on these contracts. So it's a very exciting time, and we actually have a lot that will be going on in the next few weeks, which I'm excited about.
Yeah. And I'm curious about maybe some examples just that you and your team use internally. I have my own about why do you need, MCP is more I'm an agent, I want to do something, and I need tools like browser use, computer use, I don't know, voice generation. And A2A is I'm specialized agent in one thing, in writing code, and another agent is specialized in I don't know, financial market analysis, and they can work together to achieve something. Yeah. So what are the use cases, at least initially, that you target? What would be the examples?
Yeah, I think this financial one is a very good one. I think the difference of like 8004, what it does is like it allows you to like build also reputation, basically, right? So the idea is that okay, you can deploy like the same like financial analyst agents. Let's say that one, maybe it provides like a direct service to the user, and then two, essentially like it can be called by like some other like investor allocator agent that I mentioned before, right? Can produce something for it, and then there can be a trace to okay, what do the task that this agent completed led to, right? They led to another action from this other agent that led to like some returns. Like let's say that they hit like 20% annual return, annualized return. So now you have basically like a network of services, which like each of them like starts building trust over time. So this financial one is one we would really like people to like start experimenting with more. The most concrete experiments we've seen is in finance and in coding. Coding also related to blockchain as like auditing, basically like certified auditing. Basically, there is an auditor agent, and it provides like basically some tests, some audits, and then like you can see over time kind of what is the reputation of this agent. Initially is reviewed by some humans, but then could also be automatically reviewed.
Yeah, I've seen examples like this, and I'm sure there's many more use cases. I think these are like very tangible, where AI actually helps today. Um, what do you think about the philosophy, the design philosophy of this? For example, I've been working a lot with like identity and reputation systems, with DID, self-sovereign identity working group, with Decentralized Identity Foundation, and there's basically like this not split, but there's a spectrum between fully on-chain solutions that try to record everything on chain and make it callable and programmable by smart contracts. But I feel like more traction we actually see from the solutions that are using decentralized identifiers and cryptographically verifiable reputation and credentials, but also more it is peer-to-peer, it is decentralized network, but they don't store everything on chain. Why? Because sometimes you need immutability, sometimes just having a signature is enough to verify the reputation and the issuance, and you basically just use blockchain as a registry, and maybe also payment mechanism, because that's where the value transfer is happening. How do you think about it? Like, is it flexible to allow for any of these designs, or you like lean towards one or the other?
I think we are kind of in the middle of this spectrum, maybe leaning a little bit towards the second one. I think the reason why people got really excited about 8004 is precisely that the design is very minimal, right? So essentially, like this one that you mentioned is a great question, because it's like one of the main trade-offs in our mind while we were writing the proposal. Actually, is like, okay, how much stuff do we put on chain so that we allow basically trustless composability versus like in our case, one other thing was in mind was also the cost, right? So we want to make it like really easy and like cheap for developers to adopt this. So like if you start putting like huge blobs of data on chain, then like it becomes more expensive. Um, and The other thing next to cost, which is similar, is like around like how rigid it becomes, right? Because then like if everything goes on chain, then it's costly, and then everything is immutable. So like it's still early days in the development of this like agent to agent interaction, right? So like some things may change. So we decided to go with kind of like the linear approach. Like if you see like basically 8004 is essentially three registries. One is for identity, one is for reputation, and one is for validation. And the amount of information that gets logged on chain is like quite minimal, but still gives like this minimal like foundation for coordination because you still have this centralized registry where you can either like look up the agents or like read like the events when there is like essentially a review. But yeah, in conclusion, like this has also been the main discussion. If you go to the public thread where like a lot of people are actually proposing like improvements or changes, is they were pushing us to put a little bit more on chain, right? And actually, like we are soon gonna release a new version where like we increase a little bit the footprint of like what we publish on chain, but not by much. But it's pretty cool because essentially what I would say this moves us like a little bit towards like your first end of the spectrum. So it's almost really cool that we are doing like this process of finding what the right balance is with the community, like on the public forum, which is pretty interesting.
And what would be the components that currently are going to be on chain? So there's a identity registry of like registered agents, which is also, I know Anthropic a couple of days ago, they released their MCP registry, but it doesn't need to be competitive. Like one can include the other, or so what else? What will go on chain and why?
Yeah, so in this case is like yeah, there is the identity registry, then like there is like the reputation registry where like initially like we were not even planning to publish the reputation score itself that gets given by the client to the server agent, and which is a score from 1 to 100, and then people can give it the interpretation that they want. This will be like off-chain infra that gets built on top, right? So different type of services will like give different interpretations. So
And by the way,
that,
reputation, is it for correct? Like, does it measure if the agent completed the task that it promised to complete, or does it measure the performance? Because performance is very hard to measure in a one dimension, like in single number. Like, for example, you can like write a code that is working good, but overly like too many lines of code, like just too much complexity. Or you can write a code that is like super elegant and super nice, but just doesn't compile. Or you can write a code that like is short and works well, but has a security problem. And you need like
yeah,
multiple dimensions.
yeah.
How they measure it?
Yeah, so we don't say anything. This is the thing. This is like it's a score, and the scale is from 1 to 100. You can use it as binary. You can also use it as like a gradational scale. I think you can also use it as multidimensional, right? Basically, like people offline can decide that okay, if there is a marketplace for this specific type of coding agents, and you have 10 dimension, right? Like then essentially like you could also like try to map those into like some like in the scoring like range that we have. So yeah, we don't want to be prescriptive on this. Yeah, we thought that it was like kind of simple to like provide this like range or scale. But in the current proposal, like the score itself is not even on chain, is logged off chain. For example, on IPFS on chain, there is just like basically the event which records that like an authorization feedback event was emitted, and then like the hash to like the kind of like data about the task. But yeah, so everything around reputation right now is like off chain, and yeah, the small change would be at least like not all the data itself, like still it will be in some blobs off chain, but like the score itself, the number could be published on chain. So in case people want to basically write like some smart contracts which are depending on like some aggregate reputation as well. Yeah, that would be like one of the small changes.
Yeah. It's so super interesting because you can build now maybe an on-chain prediction market about the score, the future reputation of the agent, which is a way to like to measure if like basically it's the same as reputation, like when you do reference checks when you hiring someone or maybe investing in a company. That's the same, but because it's programmable, it can happen like thousands. You can like query thousands of users in 100 milliseconds and compare all the results. So for me, these are the um, advantages and unique selling propositions of this Internet of Agents and agent economy that is not possible to do without that. And even if it will be like a, for example, GPT store, it will be only limited to a single model or single provider or single curation mechanism. So this sounds super bullish for me at least. I want to because as I know, like most listeners of this podcast are either builders, so founders, researchers, engineers, or investors. I want to ask a few questions that I assume like these people will have. Like for example, for from builders, at least from like my part as a builder, the question is, what do you want to see happening? Like, what do you want to see built? Like, if you, let's say, had a, I don't know, you were starting a new company in this space, where would you focus? Or maybe as a researcher, what type of protocols or products or companies you would like to see uh, to be created?
You mean in general, like in AI on the
Yeah,
intersection?
in the next 1-2 years, in specifically like this idea of Internet of Agents,
Got it,
and
got it.
maybe
On it.
around Ethereum, around ERC 8004, around agent economy.
I feel that we need to get traction with like some products that are like really generating value for people, and I feel that like the financial agent space is very interesting. Um, I also feel that like some of the 8004 like agents could be like kind of infra related, not user facing, in the sense like basically it could be like some service that offers like cheap model infrastructure, like let's say kind of like some open router butler that like okay, if you want to like have an application, an AI application that wants to query some model, like you call this butler and it always finds you like the cheapest like provider, or like the cheapest MCP tool, like once people start monetizing. So this part could be interesting. And then I would be super excited to see like some consumer applications that like people start using. For example, like we have this dream that, okay, maybe like in the future, people will have like maybe some personal AI, and then they will rely on like AI agents to like carry out services for them, right? And I think like for example, like one is like trip planning, one is like meeting coordination, um, things like that. I feel that we kind of have the technology now to do it. Like in the sense, for example, in the case of trip planning, like putting constraints around like, okay, how much budget like do I want to give to like some specific task or some specific goal. But for some reasons, like this is not happening yet. Like one question may be that, okay, the tech itself is not that ready, like even in AI itself, right? Like, but like it would be really cool if like we have some breakthrough like that, and it comes from like one of the applications that are kind of natively deployed on 8004, and like once it works, I think 8004 gives you like basically an extra push, an extra fuel, because like you can bootstrap like trust very quickly. Like yeah, you don't need like real world validation. Hey, I've been invested by XYZ, and like yeah, it's like your agent is working, everyone can see it, people start using it. Yeah.
Yeah, the best validation is when people are using it, or even better, paying for
Yes,
the
yes.
product. And Yeah. Also, I think it's super aligned with our investment thesis at Cyberfund, and we're also happy to support founders like working in these directions or something adjacent to this. And maybe more from research angle, what are the problems, the open problems? Like, where would you want researchers, maybe people that you hire to your team or independent researchers to focus on? What do you think is most interesting and most needed?
So I think research wise, like I would separate into like more fundamental research around like AI on blockchains and AI coordination more in general, and then more kind of applied research like closer to the protocol. Uh, on the first kind, I think there is a huge opportunity on this like new field basically of like teaching AI skills that are not about like internal like single entity knowledge, but it's about how do you coordinate with other entities, right? So this is not being done yet even by the major labs, right? They are all working on like single model scaling laws basically, but we've had like a few initial conversation with like people at major labs that are very interested in this. They see that a kind of multi-agent is coming, and like they see that hey, maybe like there will be the point where like we need to go beyond, right? We need to teach these models, even like the frontier models, so like skills around like okay, if you are in a cooperative setting, or like if you're in a multi-agent setting, how do you reach a cooperative equilibrium with the others, right? Like where do you like negotiate, where do you compromise? So I think there is like very interesting research there at the intersection of AI, and I think blockchain has like some interesting angle to play there, because it's essentially kind of the environment, right? Like if you want to train like this cooperative game, like you need to build an environment for it. It could be like informed, and then maybe in the future also like more than informed, like yeah, we could build this sandbox with crypto. So that angle is like very interesting, and I think there will be like more coming up.
Is
Uh,
it more like RL environments where like the environment is a blockchain, and the environment is the economy, and you need like some coordination of entities to achieve the best outcome? Or um like while you were talking, like I imagined basically doing gradient descent, but not um optimizing the weights of the single network model, but rather optimizing different parameters of multiple agents. Because you have like each agent has like an input prompt and I don't know, some like input parameters and input context and model and everything. And then if you have a bunch of them, you can gradient descent into the most optimal uh, uh, uh,
Equilibrium, right? Like the
equilibrium
cooperative.
of those. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Or
like
is it
yeah,
both? Or is it the same thing?
it's both.
Because
I think like they are not mutually exclusive. Yeah, yeah. You are thinking in the right way. Like one is like very similar to like a REL environment, and the second one is yeah, like there could be some fine tuning on the weights itself, but it doesn't need to be, right. It can be like any parameter of the model that kind of pushes them towards like being more cooperative, or like reaching some sort of equilibrium which is economically efficient. And there is very little work on this, but it's something that we started to talk about with a few research partners. And on the like more fundamental research side, I think it's quite important that we advance this. And I guess it's also an opportunity of collaboration between like blockchain organization and more traditional AI, because this is where like we have something to add, right? Because like okay, if you look at single agent scaling law, like they are almost centralized by design, right? And there is not too much intersection with blockchain, but here there is.
I'm curious also. I had a few interesting conversations with some researchers from kind of traditional AI space, and the multi-agents. Like, I'm curious, like, what is the end state of the multi-agent systems? Because one argument can be that different agents are exchanging like JSONs via HTTP. Basically, like you have a output text that is then sent to the other agent and it does something. But then if that is happening, the logical optimization would be to take both of these agents and actually train a single network where you will send gradients instead of JSONs because it's cheaper, faster, and kind of can be more powerful. Do you think that like the end state equilibrium can be the fact that we just have like a huge single network that has like all these multi-agent capabilities baked into it?
I hope not. And maybe there is like some reasons why it should not be. Like basically, yeah, if you think from like the biology evolutionary perspective, like there will be like this process of like exploration, exploitation, right? So I think we will see both things. Basically, we will see like maybe a proliferation of like decentralized models, agents, experiments that people run, and then maybe like the most successful use cases, right? Then they get like incorporated into like the evolved like version of like one model. But I think this project of this part of like external experimentation and entropy that then gets like absorbed needs to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, and design space is huge. So yeah, sorry, I interrupted you. You said there's like two directions. So first one is
Yeah.
this kind of
More
optimization of
fundamental
multi-agent
research, I call
direction.
it. Uh,
Yeah.
the other one, I call it more applied research. And yeah, that's closer to like plugging into Ethereum, right? Like, so it could be more in the payment direction, um, or could be more in the verification direction, like experimenting with like new techniques of cryptographically verifying like parts of like the outputs of these agents using other type of validation, for example, crypto economic validation, but essentially like working with the ecosystem project to like make progress on those dimensions. And I feel in this applied research space, a lot of things could be like potentially like ERCs or things that are adjacent to the Ethereum protocol, which kind of add to like the capabilities of like developing AIs on Ethereum. Yeah, so these would be kind of the two areas. Yeah.
Amazing. And so for people who are working on either these research directions or maybe building something using ERC 8004, um, is there any way you collaborate? Like, what should they do? Should they, I don't know, follow you on Twitter or write an email somewhere?
They can, yeah, they can follow me or DM me. Uh, Maybe even better, they can also send an email to ai@ethereum.org. We are collecting like a few like yeah, since like basically very recently launching the team. That's been a medium where like a new projects get in touch. And then on 8004, we'll also very soon share like a form. Like we're launching a builder program basically, like where you can like more specifically signal your interest, like give an idea of like what your idea is, and then um, we will kind of like help. Like we already have basically an 8004 team, which is not just the EF, but for example, one of the co-authors of 8004 is from MetaMask. So essentially, like 8004 is already like kind of built by like different teams on the community, and we assemble like a team which is going to run this. Right now, like we have a milestone which is like in 2 months. We will be hosting like the Trustless Agents Day at DEF Connect. So like leading up to DEF Connect, we want to like start the engagement with the builder, and that will be a venue where like some of these builders can showcase. And then basically there we can also define together, okay, what does the next step of 8004 looks like?
Amazing. Yeah. So in Argentina, right?
Yes, it's in Buenos Aires. Yeah, DEF Connect is the main annual conference for Ethereum. together with DevCon. Like every year there is at least one of them. Actually, exactly one of them. So this year is DevConnect from the November 17 to 22nd in Buenos Aires. Yeah.
So for anyone planning the trip, you can come to DHS Summit in San Francisco, and then like in 3
Go to
weeks
Argentina.
to DevConnect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for sharing this. I think it's like super practical, and I'm sure a lot of people will be interested to contribute. Anything else you wanted to share? Just I don't know, about your team, about I don't know, maybe people that you hire, or maybe something else you want to add about this topic of Internet of Agents and
Yeah.
blockchain and AI.
Briefly on the team, like we are hiring for two roles. One is a member of AI staff. This is like more research focused, but we also want someone that can work, like do research in public and work closely with like both ecosystem projects and traditional researcher. And then the other one is more like on the coordination side, like a coordinator for these AI activities. And you can check these roles, for example, on the EF like job board, like or I usually post about it on my X account. One question that I'm curious of is, I know that you guys like with Cyber Fund, like also invest and are talking to like projects like in traditional AI space and also maybe on open source AI, which is to me is very interesting because it's adjacent to blockchain. It will come even closer, but like it's separate domain. Like in these domains, like what are the most interesting, promising things that you are seeing? What are trends that maybe in your mind in the future they can connect to crypto? Like,
Yeah. Thanks for this question. I think right now a lot around fine tuning and reinforcement learning and RL environments and different like computer use, like more specialized agents for computer use, and actually robotics, which is very different topic. But I think at some point there is a connection between robotics, because what robotics gives is ability to make real life actions for AI, and those actions are typically economically valuable. So you need an economic substrate for that, kind of like Tesla robotaxi, but for any other physical task. And one thing that I'll just announce since and share, since you asked, is this concept that I'm working on called intent economy, which I think is very similar or somewhat adjacent to 8004 standards. But the main idea is the same. I'm just trying to start from the user experience standpoint, because in my experience, products that like do something magical and do something super simple and do something super valuable for the users, those products win and those products get a lot of traction. And in my view, you can think of the same multi-agent Internet of Agent concept as a replacement for Google or for Amazon or for any kind of platform, because what it does in practice is, like, example that I have in my mind is, you have your personal agent on your phone. You ask it just something, like you have a goal, you have an intent. I want to rent an apartment. I want to buy a bicycle. I want to organize an offsite for my team. I want to build a certain software. And then on the back end, there's some orchestration happening. And then there is a routing and then there is an on-chain or decentralized discovery of the agents that are the best fit to complete this user intent, that can be actually facilitated by some kind of auction or mechanism designed to guarantee the best price and also reputation of these agents that will execute your intent. And then they're routed through A2A, MCP. The payment is happening on chain, and at the end you get the result. And for me, this is the most natural thing for humans, because if you meet any human being who's 3 or 4 years old, their mode of operations is typically, I want something, I ask, and either it happens or it doesn't. But I don't really care how, and I just I ask, or if nothing happens, I just ask louder and more time, and try to get my parents to actually do this what I want. So I think it's supernatural. So every person kind of lives through this age, and software that can solve this. I want to buy the best, I don't know, camera to record podcasts. I don't want to spend 1 hour on Amazon comparing all these prices and delivery options and reviews. I just want it to happen. And I think some kind of Internet of Agent system can just find the best agent that is the cheapest and the best to do this for me and give me the final result. So I want camera. The result is I want camera. I press button. I pay whatever
It's
the
up.
amount, and I get it. And I'm sure that this is the best option I can get within my constraints. So this is one of the pieces that I'm working on, and something that we are super interested in investing, because I think it's not one single company. I think it's a whole stack. Like, you need, for example, an application to run these auctions. You need a discovery mechanism. You need a bunch of front ends for this, maybe specialized for B2B, B2C use cases. You need payment trails. You need, maybe there's a separate L2 for that if the volume becomes super big. So there's a lot of business opportunities, and I think a lot of value that can be created.
I think this is great. Yeah, and definitely aligned with yeah, 8004 is like basically a small part, like one of the N things you need to enable like this new economic flow. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
thanks for
and
saying.
typically, like, building on top of open standards is a big tailwind for building whatever. So MCP A2A, 8004, X402. I
Yep.
think all these kind of fit together nicely in different parts of the whole process. Great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing a lot of super interesting insights and details about your work, about the future that is blockchain, crypto native, and the AI native. Really appreciate your time. So can you remind what is the best way to stay in touch with you, like your X or other social media that you use?
Yeah. So thanks a lot for inviting, Stepan. I think it was like a great conversation. I really enjoyed. Like, I feel that we are touching different sides of the same elephant here. Yeah, in terms of getting in touch with me, like you can reach out on X or on LinkedIn, or you can write at ai@ethereum.org.
Amazing. Thank you, Davide.
Thanks so much. Bye.